Whatever Happened to Bette Davis? Fate of a Legend. Bette Davis was a brilliant actress who justly earned her reputation as one of cinema's greatest ever performers. In a glittering Hollywood career she made over 100 films spanning 6 decades, and she reached new heights and set new acting standards in a variety of difficult, challenging roles. In a male-dominated industry she fought her corner and blazed a trail for other actresses to follow. She changed Hollywood forever and she changed it for the better. She was nominated for Academy Awards a total of 10 times, including a record 5 years in a row, in 1939, 1940, 1941, 1942 and 1943, and she won the Best Actress award twice, for Dangerous in 1935 and Jezebel in 1938. One of her unsuccessful nominations was for her appearance as Margot Channing in All About Eve in 1950, the role with which she is most closely identified. On the AFI's Best Actress list she stands at number 2 behind Katharine Hepburn. When in October 1941 the Motion Picture Academy of Arts and Sciences voted to choose their first female president, there could only be one choice: Bette Davis. In 1977, Bette was the first woman to receive the American Film Institute's Lifetime Achievement Award. She was born Ruth Elizabeth Davis in Lowell, Massachusetts, on April 6, 1908. Her father was a patent attorney, and when he and her mother divorced in 1915, the family moved to New York. She and her sister were sent to board at the Cushing Academy, just outside Boston, and after graduation she began to train as a dancer at the Merriarton School of Dancing in New York. She became enamored by the theater and decided that she wanted to be an actress rather than a dancer, so she enrolled in John Murray Anderson's acting school in New York. She became their star pupil, and after spending part of the 1928 season in George Cukor's stock company in Rochester, New York, she made her professional New York debut in Virgil Gettis' The Earth Between, to excellent critical reviews. The young actress, still only 21, was on her way, and this first success soon led to parts in other productions, including her first Broadway hit, Broken Dishes in 1929. By now Ruth had changed her name, choosing Betty from the novel Cousin Betty by Balzac. After several more roles on Broadway, and with her reputation continuing to grow, it was not long before Hollywood, in the form of Universal Studios, took notice, and in 1931 she made her movie debut for them in The Bad Sister. She made several low-budget movies for Universal and then for Warner Brothers during the early 1930s in a variety of pert, chic, urban girl roles, without any great success, but learning her trade well. At this point all her roles were supporting, such as in So Big and the Rich Are Always With Us, 3 on a Match and 20,000 Years in Sing Sing in 1932. She attracted more attention working with George Arliss in The Man Who Played God also in 1932, and the critical appreciation she received convinced her to stay on and continue to make movies. She never stopped working and learning, appearing in movies such as Ex-Lady, Bureau of Missing Persons in 1933, Fashions of 1934, Jimmy the Gent and Fog Over Frisco in 1934. Betty's hard work eventually paid off. She won the plum role of artist's model Mildred Rogers in Of Human Bondage in 1934, opposite Leslie Howard, after lobbying hard for it. Warner's loaned her out to RKO to play the part, an important role and the first to show her as a woman living ruthlessly by her wits. The critics gave her rave reviews and Betty received her first Oscar nomination for it. Warner's at last realized they had a major star on their hands. Warner's then gave her a real chance in Bordertown, Front Page Woman and Dangerous in 1935, in which she played a Warner's persona actress and won the Best Actress Oscar, the first Warner Brothers actress to win the award. She was now a top-level star and she felt she merited top roles. In 1936, when Warner Brothers failed to deliver them, Betty effectively went on strike, and when she refused an inferior role she was suspended without pay. She sailed for England to find work and sued Warner Brothers in a hectic court case in London to get out of her contract. She lost the case and had to return, apparently humiliated and penniless. But the case had publicized her flamboyant independence and her spirited struggle was acknowledged. The studio, and the public began to take her more seriously. Her salary was increased, and she was given better and better roles such as Marked Woman, Kid Galahad, That Certain Woman, and It's Love I Am After, all in 1937. This last was one of the first concessions the studio made to romantic melodrama on her behalf. They went further with Jezebel in 1938, a lurid Deep South women's picture that allowed Davis first to scheme then repent and which co-starred the up-and-coming Henry Fonda. It won her a second Oscar for Best Actress, though it killed any chance she had of obtaining the much-coveted role of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. Now, at last, she was in her element. The Sisters in 1938, as a rich girl who goes blind in Dark Victory in 1939, making Death the Great Performance, as the demented Carlotta in Juarez, the Old Maid, as the fidgety Virgin Queen in The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex in 1939. The part of Elizabeth highlighted the emotions of a woman fearful of romantic neglect who makes a cult of highly strung capriciousness, in other words, Bette Davis. Within a few years, she had given up modern, masculine films for costume melodrama. She excelled in the tearjerker All This and Heaven 2 in 1940 and she was at her best in The Letter in the same year and The Great Lie in 1941 before The Little Foxes, which once again was tailor-made for her and which made explicit her ability to portray the spurned emotional woman who becomes a malicious tyrant. The good scripts she had called for needed only to be red-blooded and to turn upon her passionate ugliness. After The Man Who Came to Dinner and In This Our Life in 1942, she played Charlotte Vale in Now, Voyager, in the same year, a classic exaltation of the women's picture. Much quieter in Watch on the Rhine in 1943, she was then in Old Acquaintance, also in 1943, and a very nasty wife to Claude Rains in Mr. Skeffington the following year. After this run of successful films, Bette had become part of the Hollywood elite and, for a time, the highest-paid woman in America. She contributed to the war effort by helping to organize the Hollywood Canteen during World War II, transforming a once-abandoned nightclub into a successful entertainment center. She received the Distinguished Civilian Service Medal, the Defense Department's highest civilian award, for her work. After the war, Bette's career started to slide as she played in a series of weak pictures such as The Corn is Green in 1945, A Stolen Life and Deception in 1946, which was her first movie to actually lose money. Her final contracted film with Warner Brothers is generally acknowledged as being her worst, Beyond the Forest in 1949, after which she succeeded in cancelling her remaining contract with the studio. She returned to the limelight in spectacular fashion in 1950 when Joseph L. Mankiewicz put her in place of an ailing Claudette Colbert in the role of Margot Channing in his masterpiece All About Eve. The film was instantly acclaimed, and remains a classic, and she received another Best Actress Oscar nomination. It was a spectacular comeback, but it did not, however, mark the beginning of a new era of success for Davis. She faltered throughout the 1950s in efforts to revive earlier successes. Payment on Demand in 1951, Another Mons Poison and Phone Call from a Stranger in 1952, The Star in 1953, The Virgin Queen, in 1955, Storm Center and the Catered Affair, as Debbie Reynolds' mother, in 1956, The Scapegoat in 1958, John Paul Jones in 1959 and Pocketful of Miracles in 1961, were all lacking the old pre-war Davis magic. By the 1960s, Davis' career had effectively come to a halt apart from her more frequent ventures into television, guesting in series such as Alfred Hitchcock Presents in 1959, Wagon Train between 1959 and 1961 and Perry Mason in 1963. She reinvented herself, in typical Davis fashion, in 1962 in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. with a bravura performance as Jane Hudson, the deranged former child star, living with her equally unstable sister, played by Joan Crawford. Both Bette and Crawford took the opportunity to continue their famous feud. The movie earned for Davis her 10th and last Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. It gave the last part of her career a fresh impetus, and she went on to make acclaimed appearances in a number of excellent movies, including the gothic horror drama Dead Ringer and the highly successful Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte in 1964. She finished the 1960s in good form with 3 films made in Britain: Nicely Starched as the Nanny in 1965, The Anniversary in 1967 and Connecting Rooms in 1970. During the remainder of her life, Bette appeared in many TV productions and films and worked on lecture tours about her life and movies into the 70s, always outspoken and cutting an imposing figure. In 1977, she was the first female recipient of the American Film Institute's Life Achievement Award. In 1979, she won a Best Actress Emmy for the TV program Strangers, the story of a mother and daughter. Her swansong was another unforgettable film performance in The Whales of August in 1987, in which she worked with another legendary actress, Lillian Gish. Though suffering from ill health, Davis remained indomitable to the end. In her personal life, Bette Davis never relied on her looks to succeed in her career. She was never classed as a great beauty and never needed to be. She had a no-nonsense, forthright manner and was not afraid of confrontation. None of her 4 marriages were happy, and none of her husbands, as she once quipped, were man enough to be Mr. Bette Davis. She also readily admitted that her career always took precedence. Her first marriage was from 1932 to 1938 to band leader Harmon Oscar Nelson. When they divorced, she married in 1940 businessman Arthur Farnsworth. After 3 years he died after a series of accidental falls. She then married artist William Grant Sherry in 1945 and the couple had 1 daughter, but in 1950 again the marriage ended in divorce. In the same year she got married for the 4th time to actor Gary Merrill, one of her co-stars in All About Eve. They had 2 children, a girl and a boy, but, after 10 years of drink-fueled arguments they divorced in 1960. In addition, Bette had several affairs, including with her favorite leading man, 1930s heartthrob, George Brent, and her favorite director, William Wyler. In 1983, Bette was diagnosed with breast cancer and underwent a mastectomy. She also suffered a series of strokes which left her with slurred speech but, typically, did not stop her from continuing her round of personal appearances and interviews. On a trip to Europe in 1989, she fell ill and was hospitalized in the American Hospital in Neuilly-sur-Seine, France. Bette Davis, the First Lady of Film, died of cancer at the age of 81 on October 6, 1989. She is interred at Forest Lawn, Los Angeles. Rest in peace, Bette Davis. Goodbye.